My heart stopped in that very instant. Clinical death. My heart wasn't beating for exactly 4 minutes. The first sensation was like a sudden wave crashing over me, and after that I saw my hospital bed, but it simply vanished, disappeared. In its place appeared something like a shaft, a dark, bottomless shaft, descending into absolute nothingness. And that's exactly where I fell. The hospital room was gone. The hospital was gone. There was nothing, only absolute, thick darkness. An abyss, and through this abyss my consciousness was hurtling. I say I because I still had my awareness. I could feel my own personality. I was being carried at a tremendous speed, as if I were a weightless speck of dust being sucked into a vacuum cleaner's hose. That's exactly what it was like. The strangest part was that I could feel this incredible speed, but there were no points of reference around me. When you're driving a car, you see trees and houses flashing by. You understand you're moving. Here, the speed was invisible. I only felt that something was happening, that I was flying through nothingness. After some time, I began to make out a luminous fog ahead. It appeared as if through a frosted glass, and in the path of my movement, I saw 2 gigantic beings. You have to understand, I felt tiny, like an insect, and they were colossal, 100 times larger than me. They were true titans, made of something smoky, like dense fog, yet they had clear, human-like outlines. They were wearing long, floor-length garments, resembling ancient robes or monastic vestments. I looked at their faces and saw nothing, only a misty, blank haze where their faces should have been. And as I flew past them, a thought spontaneously formed in my mind. Guardians. They are like gatekeepers. And then, as I flew past, these giants raised long, long trumpets with a flared bell at the end. Many years later, in the 90s, while traveling in Nepal, I saw the same kind. They are called dungchen, Tibetan ritual trumpets. But back then, in Soviet times, I knew nothing about them. Where could my brain have gotten these images from? And when they raised those trumpets, a low-frequency hum resonated. It wasn't just a sound. It made the very space around me begin to undulate, as if a stretched canvas was wrinkling. And at that moment, I suddenly began to feel my body again. I tried to look at my hands, my legs, but I saw nothing. I could feel them, but they were invisible. And as the sound from the trumpets made space shudder, and I flew through this rippling curtain, I began to dissolve. I started losing the sensation of myself, of this invisible body. It was simply disappearing. I flew further and saw a second pair of the same guardian gatekeepers. They repeated the same action. It was like a looped scene in the darkness. Again the trumpets, again the space undulating, and again my dissolution. But this time it only reached my chest. I felt that only half of me remained. And then, at the very last moment, from the depths of what was still left of me, a single, clear, and powerful thought was born. I don't want to go there. I don't want to fly there. Enough. I want to go back. And in that same instant, my movement ceased. I stopped, and suddenly the space around me began to glow softly. It was filled with a dim but warm light. I was just floating there, and it felt alive. And I heard voices, a general murmuring, as if I had stumbled upon an invisible council. I couldn't make out words or phrases, but the general meaning was crystal clear to me. They were deciding what to do with me next. Then this council ended. The light went out, the voices fell silent, and I was again in an empty, lifeless darkness, and I felt myself flying back to where I had come from. And again I flew past those titans with the trumpets. Again space rippled from the hum. But on the return journey, the breath from those trumpets didn't dissolve me. On the contrary, it seemed to reassemble my essence. I began to regain my form, the sensation of a body and a personality. And the last thing I remembered, a blinding bright flash, like a magnesium flare, a sharp snap and a terrible grinding metallic sound, and the sensation of being inserted into my own body like a lead into a pencil. I flew into it, and immediately felt an incredible heaviness. I tried to lift my hand, it was immovable, but there, in that state, everything was so light, weightless, and only after that did I open my eyes. I saw people in white coats, wires attached to me, understood that some resuscitation procedures were happening. They were restarting my heart with shocks, possibly injecting adrenaline directly into the heart muscle. Later, in the 90s, I became familiar with the works of famous researchers of life after death. For example, Raymond Moody, who wrote the book Life After Life. And I learned that many people had similar experiences. Some flew through a tunnel, others saw a bright light. But my experience was different, and I thought that probably, for each person, this encounter with the beyond is given in its own unique form. It's like an individual program meant to gently guide a person, to help them understand their purpose in this life. This encounter forced me, and millions of others who have experienced similar things, to ask ourselves the main questions. Who am I? Where am I going? And what is my true purpose? If my story resonated with your heart, if you believe that our reality is much more complex and mysterious than it seems, please subscribe to our channel, Mysterious Stories. Here we gather the most incredible and shocking testimonies about encounters with the unexplained. Your subscription will help us continue to search for and tell these amazing stories. Thank you for being with us.